Super Win the Game was a game that shows to me something clearly. Don't let a title let you make preconception about the quality or content of a game. Despite knowing that fully, I apparently needed to be reminded of it in this case. When I read the title of this game, I expected an over-the-top experience with memes that was poorly constructed and attempted to rely on humor. What I got was entirely different. A smart platformer that attempts and succeeds to play to the nostalgic and retro feelings. Although it has flaws in some areas, what I got was an enjoyable game that brought me back to the days of NES platformers and presentation, and all in all an enjoyable experience. Almost immediately, one of the things you'll notice about Super Win the Game is its presentation. The screen is presented in a CRT style of old televisions and monitors past. It gives a unique presentation of the game, but it doesn't stop there. One thing you'll notice is the way the graphics of the game blend into each other, and how, for example, your character can leave a trail across the screen. There are moments where it can hurt your eyes almost, as you try to focus on something. God, I feel old writing that, but the style does work for the game in question. The Overworld map originally reminded me of Final Fantasy and the old Zelda 2 Overworld, as it brought back feelings of staying in front of the TV at night with the glow of the screen. It does its job in delivering nostalgia, that's for sure. The CRT option is adjustable as well. You can also adjust its tint and things like that. And it's accompanied by a catchy 8-bit soundtrack. Now note, I'm a sucker for 8-bit music. From the old Mega Man game soundtrack to the newer sounds of VVV, VVV, and bands like Anamanaguchi, I love me an 8-bit soundtrack. It was the perfect backdrop for me programming, although at times I would get lost in it. With Super Win the Game, it feels like the same thing. In fact, I can safely say that the music was the cause of a couple of deaths for me during the playthrough as I got lost in the music. The music matches the world and the environments that it's in pretty darn well, and I always seem to get disappointed when I had to leave a level that I was enjoying the music of, only to start enjoying the next selection. Get the soundtrack edition if you like 8-bit music. But let's get to the meat of the game, gameplay. It's a progression platformer that takes you back to the days of yore. You'll have to hit jumps with precisions while exploring the overworld to collect the 6 hearts of the king. The story is embedded here, but only plays a secondary role, but it does its job. During your travels, you'll travel through a variety of levels, from an ice cave to the desert to even your own dreams in grayscale, which was a nice additional touch. The levels all have their own hazards, from toxic water to electric trap. In your adventure, you will collect powers that will make you more powerful, such as the spider gloves, which will make you cling to walls, a double jump, to even things like a Tesla badge that will let you walk through electric traps. What is done well here is the balance of getting those powers along with the overworld. In your quest, you will run across gems that you will use to purchase keys, or the skeleton key, and it is your main currency. These gems are usually out of the way in most cases and will rely on your powers or jumping ability to get them. What I liked was the balance between getting these gems. Some gems were straightforward, some gems absolutely required an upgrade, but some were in between. If you had the power up, it was made a lot easier, but if you didn't, you could rely on your platforming skills to get through the hazard. In that case, you most definitely could get it if you timed things right. It also made some dungeons easier, with timing jumps being unnecessary when you have the Tesla badge, for example, when you can walk right through the hazard. The game really lets you explore the world in the way that you want to, but if you ever need a hint, you can always go to the fortune teller to point you in the right direction. For example, I completely went the opposite way that the game told me to go, but I was able to overcome challenge and get power-ups despite that. Although in one case, I think I ran into a power-up by sheer dumb luck, that being the snorkel. It opened up the world even more to me at that point and was appreciated. It also helps that when going back over older worlds, there's a subcon world that connects to all those dungeons, so it's easier to get those collectibles where you need to. The controls are solid. Never did the controls feel too loose or that I didn't have control over my character. The extra abilities that you got out later on reinforced this even more, as I could skip around the vertical levels with ease, and it always felt like it was my fault when I failed. I will say that on the ice level, I may have had too much control, as the ice didn't seem to affect me as much as I thought. Early on though, one thing I will say about this game is that the difficulty is questionable at times. Not to say the game is hard, far from it. At times I feel the game was too forgiving. Again, part of the problem here is the media that it's in, the retro feel of the game and the nostalgic feeling that it gave me, so I expected a difficult ROM. I didn't get that in my first few hours of gameplay. While there were tricky parts, part of that was the checkpoint system, it gave you plenty of opportunities to save at and never got to that point of that 8-bit hardness. Although the challenge does present itself. The fortune teller, for example, will tell you how long you've played and how many times you've died. Trying to get through the playthrough with as little deaths as possible can be a challenge in itself. The question will be whether or not this game will be worth its cost in terms of length. And I'm going to guess yes. This is a collectible and exploration game on top of platforming, and as of now, with about a couple hours in, I've only found one of the hearts and a couple of the power-ups. I think at the cost of 12 to 13 bucks, 14 to 15 for the soundtrack edition, it's a yes. Let me put it straight up here. If you were a Nintendo kid and played those platformers of old, you'll feel at home with this game. If that doesn't sound interesting to you, avoid this game. While yes, it's a solid game otherwise, those who are not those Nintendo kids are most likely not going to relate to the style and presentation this game has to offer. But for those Nintendo kids of old, this game is worth your time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have a chance, leave some feedback and comments below. If you liked the video, hit that like button. And if you want more content like this, hit that subscribe button. This is Dragnick signing off, hoping that gaming brings as much fun to you as it does for me.